November in Yorkshire has a certain feeling to it. The evenings arrive early. By 4:30, daylight is already beginning to disappear, and a cold mist often settles across the parks and streets. In late November 2000, Christmas lights had just begun to appear across Leeds. Families were starting their Christmas shopping. Buses were busy with people carrying bags home, and for most teenagers, it was simply another Sunday afternoon. 16-year-old Leanne Tiernan was one of them. She lived with her family in Bramley, a working-class community on the western side of Leeds. Friends described her as cheerful, kind and dependable. She was close to her parents, Michael and Sharon. She attended West Leeds High School, and like many other girls her age, she was excited for Christmas. On Sunday the 26th of November, Leanne travelled into Leeds city centre with her 15-year-old friend Sarah Whitehouse for an afternoon of Christmas shopping. Nothing about the day seemed unusual. The girls spent the day browsing shops, bought a few things, and just basically hung out like teenagers do. Eventually, they caught the bus back towards Bramley. At around 4:50 p.m. that afternoon, they got off the bus together. And, as they often did, they eventually went their separate ways. Sarah continued walking home. Leanne, however, headed towards a shortcut through an area known as Houghley Gill. It was a route many local people knew well. Woodlands, overgrown paths, the sort of place you might see the occasional dog walker, and it was less than a mile from home. When Sarah, Leanne's friend, arrived home, something felt wrong. Normally, she and Leanne would have checked in with each other. A quick phone call to say they were back safe, but this time there was nothing. Sarah rang Leanne's phone number. No answer. A few minutes later, Leanne's mum Sharon tried her mobile phone. It rang, then stopped. She tried again. This time it cut off after only a few rings. As darkness settled over Leeds, worry quickly turned into fear. By 7 o'clock that evening, Leanne's mum Sharon made the call that every parent dreads. She reported her 16-year-old daughter missing. At first, everyone hoped there was a simple explanation. Perhaps she'd gone to another friend's house. Perhaps her phone battery had died. Perhaps she simply lost track of time. But as the hours passed, there was still no sign of Leanne. By the following morning, Leanne had still not returned home. For her family, the hope that she might have simply stayed at a friend's house had disappeared. Something felt seriously wrong. West Yorkshire Police immediately began treating the disappearance as a high-risk missing person investigation. Detectives worked backwards through Leanne's final known movements, retracing every step she had took after leaving Leeds city centre. The last confirmed sighting, of course, leading her to Houghley Gill. Officers searched the paths, the undergrowths, nearby fields, gardens, canals, but there was nothing. As the days became weeks, the investigation grew at an extraordinary pace. More than 200 police officers became involved, and around 1,400 house-to-house inquiries were carried out. Hundreds of sheds, garages and outbuildings were searched. The police literally drained sections of the Leeds and Liverpool Canal and searched dozens of drainage shafts and abandoned wells. Household bin collections were temporarily stopped so officers could examine rubbish for any possible clue. But despite all of that, Leanne didn't show up. The public desperately wanted to help. Her photograph appeared across the country. One supermarket chain even printed her face onto milk cartons sold nationwide. Then the sightings flooded in. Some claimed to have seen Leanne in Doncaster. Others believed they had spotted her in Blackpool. Every report was investigated, but none of them proved to be accurate or true. As Christmas approached, Leanne's family faced every parent's bloody nightmare. An empty chair at the dinner table. Presents that would never be opened. As a parent myself, I can't imagine how painful that must have been. Weeks turned into months. Months became almost a year, and still there was no trace of the 16-year-old girl who had simply been walking home from a Christmas shopping trip. Then in August 2001, everything changed. On the morning of the 20th of August 2001, almost 9 months after Leanne disappeared, a local man named Mark Bisson was walking his dogs through Lindley Woods near Houghley. Then all of a sudden, his dogs became interested in something hidden among the undergrowth. As Mark walked closer, he realised he wasn't looking at rubbish. He had found some human remains. Police quickly sealed off the woodland. Within days, fingerprints confirmed what Leanne's family had feared for almost 9 months. The body was Leanne Tiernan. The missing person investigation instantly became a murder inquiry. What detectives discovered at the scene suggested this wasn't a crime committed in a panic. It appeared organised, calculated. Leanne's body had been wrapped inside multiple green bin bags. A flowery duvet cover surrounded them. Her hands were bound with yellow plastic cable ties. A black bin bag had been placed over her head and secured with a leather dog collar. Several personal items were missing, including the coat and boots she had been wearing the day she disappeared. Forensic specialists believe Leanne's body had not been lying in those woods for the entire 9 months. The level of decomposition didn't match the weather conditions. Experts began considering an unsettling possibility that after Leanne was murdered, her body had been kept somewhere else, possibly in someone's freezer. But despite the horror of the discovery, the killer had made one mistake. Well, several mistakes in fact. Tiny pieces of evidence, almost invisible. The kind of evidence most people would never even notice. Those tiny clues would eventually lead detectives to a man who had been living less than a mile away from where Leanne disappeared. A man his neighbours described as ordinary, quiet, trustworthy. The last person anyone would suspect. Firstly, the leather dog collar fastened around Leanne's head became one of the first breakthroughs. Detective Constable David Wilson began contacting every single wholesaler that sold that particular brand across the country. One by one, companies were ruled out. Then, after contacting more than 100 suppliers, detectives found a mail-order company that sold 3 of those collars to customers in the Leeds area. One name stood out: John Taylor. It wasn't the first time the police had heard of John. 2 former girlfriends had independently contacted the police after appeals on television. Both remembered Taylor taking them to Lindley Woods during their relationship. Both said he knew the area exceptionally well through his poaching. That alone, though, wasn't enough to arrest him. But the forensic evidence kept growing. Scientists recovered a single hair trapped inside the knot of the scarf wrapped around Leanne's neck. Using advanced DNA testing, cutting-edge science at the time, they linked the hair to John Taylor. Then investigators examined the unusual cord used to wrap Leanne's body. It matched the same rare type of cord found inside Taylor's home. The yellow cable ties used to bind Leanne's hands were another breakthrough. They were the same type issued by Parcel Force, where Taylor worked as a delivery driver. The same cable ties were discovered during a search of his house. Then came something even more disturbing. Former girlfriends described Taylor's obsession with bondage. Several women independently told detectives that he regularly restrained them using plastic cable ties. One woman described exactly how he fastened their wrists together, the same method used on Leanne. Pollen found on Leanne's body matched plants growing in Taylor's own back garden. And perhaps most remarkably of all, tiny dog hairs recovered from Leanne's body were analysed overseas, becoming one of Britain's earliest murder investigations to successfully use dog DNA profiling. Almost every scientific test pointed in the same direction. On the 16th of October 2001, nearly a year after Leanne vanished, police arrested 45-year-old John Taylor. When questioned, he admitted abducting Leanne. He claimed her death had been an accident. Police and detectives didn't believe a word of it, and they knew he was talking absolute shite. But the evidence painted a very different picture. But there was still one question that haunted the investigation. Was Leanne really his first victim? On the 8th of July 2002, as his murder trial was about to begin at Leeds Crown Court, John Taylor changed his plea. He admitted to murdering Leanne Tiernan. The judge described him as a dangerous sexual sadist who had deliberately targeted a vulnerable young girl to satisfy his own perverted fantasies. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. But for decades, the case wasn't over. As they looked deeper into Taylor's past, another disturbing pattern emerged. DNA linked him to 2 rapes committed in Leeds during the late 1980s. Both attacks involved women being threatened with a knife. Both victims had been blindfolded and restrained. Both bore chilling similarities to what had happened to Leanne. In 2003, Taylor admitted both rapes and received further life sentences. Then, years later in 2018, after additional convictions from other serious sexual offences, he was given a whole life order. He will almost certainly, and thankfully, die in prison. Yet, despite his convictions, many detectives have never believed Leanne was his only victim. The way he planned the abduction, the way he concealed Leanne's body, none of it suggested an amateur. As a direct result of the investigation, police reopened numerous unsolved murders across Yorkshire and beyond, including the murder of Yvonne Fitt, whose body had also been discovered in Lindley Woods almost a decade earlier. Despite extensive inquiries, no evidence has ever been found to charge Taylor with any of the other murders. To this day, he continues to deny involvement in any killing other than Leanne's. With this case, there is lots of unknowns, but what we do know is that a 16-year-old girl walking home after a Christmas shopping trip never made it back to her family. One ordinary Sunday evening changed countless lives forever. Sometimes the most terrifying crimes don't happen in alleyways or abandoned buildings. They happen 100 metres from your house. If you have any of your own theories about this case, or whether about John could have had other victims, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to comment and like, and I'll see you later.